Yep, you're seeing that right. Today we are talking about a prospect trade that Montreal Canadiens fans should have been excited for. We didn't talk about this when it initially happened because I was kind of like, oh yeah, like the rumors circulating around and everything that was leading up to this trade. We all kind of expected it, and as a result I was like, okay, yeah, cool. And then I just went over and talked about other things on the channel. But I wanted to take a step back to a few days ago and talk about this trade involving Montreal Canadiens top prospect Owen Beck. And of course, I'm not talking about the Montreal Canadiens trading Beck away. No. We are talking about the trade in the OHL, wherein Beck went from the Peterborough Petes over to the Saginaw Spirit. Now, if you say that's clickbait, man, it's right there in the thumbnail. Like, there's a picture of the two teams in the OHL. If you can't see that, then that's your bad. But either way, this was a trade that happened, and it was a really good one. It's one that I feel needs to be talked about. Because when it comes to Owen Beck, Montreal Canadiens pick taken 33rd overall in the 2022 draft in the second round, this has been a huge explosion of talent, and it's one that we may not have actually seen had this trade not gotten accomplished. So let's go over to the profile of Beck just before we dive into the numbers. Beck is already on his ELC. He's signed on till 2026, 6 feet 190 right-handed center, 19 years old, out of Peterborough, Ontario, Canada. Beck actually did have a cup of coffee with the Canadiens last year. He played a game, he didn't get any points, but he still looked pretty alright, before going back over to the OHL and playing with Peterborough, getting 16 points in 22 games in their playoff run. He also had 3 points in 5 games in the Memorial Cup that year. Beck was drafted in 2022 out of the Mississauga Steelhead system, and his season last year was a pretty good one, all things considered. His production was increased by quite a bit, and he made the World Junior team, albeit in a pretty limited capacity. He had 3 games played, 1 point. He wasn't really supposed to be on the team anyway. He was filling in for some injuries, but the fact that he was there in general was a good thing. And Owen Beck, if you take a look at the scouting report, it goes over just what exactly it is that he's good at doing. He's a powerful skater with a good mix of crossovers and gets to his top speed quickly. He uses that speed to back defenders up and even rush right past them on some sequences. Beck uses that speed to provide constant support at every corner of the ice. He's the ultimate play connector, always offering his teammates a passing option and showing a great knack for linking defense to offense. Now, the thing is, even though Beck was already a pretty good prospect, maybe a guy with a third line, lower tier second line ceiling who could play some good special team roles, even though Beck had this ceiling already heading into this year, you could say that there was maybe a bit more that could have been desired from this season's worth of play with Beck. This is because with the Peterborough Petes, the guy had 30 points in 25 games played, which, if you're keeping track, isn't really the best point production number for a guy who's in his Draft Plus 2 season still in the OHL. Maybe they're not, like, fantastic, but they're still alright. And Beck made the World Junior team for Team Canada once again, had a goal in 5 games played. Admittedly, he played okay. Like, I think a lot of that Canadian squad was just really not great and up to snuff, so seeing a lot of the point production for many of these guys falter in the ways that they did, yeah, it was really disappointing, and we're just going to leave it at that. To help us out with Owen Beck, though, there was an article published by Stephen Ellis after the World Juniors concluded. Here is how every NHL prospect performed at this year's tourney. And if you scroll down over to the Montreal Canadiens, Ellis writes this about Owen Beck, that he was brought on to bring experience and two-way play. Mission accomplished. The Beck, Owen Allard, and Nate Danielson trio was the only line that Canada never touched, and for good reason. They saw some power play time, brought loads of energy, won faceoffs, and battled hard. Beck was the glue that made it all happen. But of course, still, only getting 1 point in 5 games played is not ideal, which is why, if you consider the point production for Beck in his season this year, you could say that it was sort of underwhelming. That is, until the Peterborough Petes, who, at the time of recording this audio, are in the bottom quarter of OHL play, traded Owen Beck to the Saginaw Spirit in exchange for Aiden Young, a 2025 second, a 2027 second, and a 2026 third. Now, as we have talked about in other videos, particularly the Nate Danielson video from a few days ago, that one comes to my mind right away. When it comes to these junior trades, you'll always see these lower tier teams trading away their top studs to the best teams in the CHL league. mostly around the trade deadline because they want to get prospects and picks, and these top-tier teams could use help heading into the Memorial Cup season. They need to win their playoffs, and then they can play in the Memorial Cup. For the Saginaw Spirit, though, they are the Memorial Cup host city, so they're already guaranteed to be playing. And they're one of the top 6 teams in the OHL at the time of recording this audio. Heading over to Saginaw, this is what Hattie K went out there and wrote. He is a scout for Dalibor prospects. Owen Beck to Saginaw is official. He'll join Sane Barek, Michael Misa, and more in the host city of the Memorial Cup. That means surefire Memorial Cup play for Beck, who already has an OHL championship and World Junior gold medal to his name. And so, getting placed onto a better team in the standings of the OHL, let's talk about how Beck has played so far. And to help us out, we're going over onto Mark Dumont's recent article, Canadiens Analyses, Beck, Reinbacher, and the Value of Context. This was from yesterday. I'll leave a link in the description if you want to read this yourself. But when it comes to Owen Beck, the article reads about how he has enjoyed a significant uptick in scoring since joining his new team, the Saginaw Spirit. And while this may come as a shock to some, especially when we consider his rate with the Peterborough Petes, it was relatively easy to anticipate. Because in Owen Beck's first game with the Saginaw Spirit, he was played on the top line with Michael Misa, who is a top prospect in 2025, and Josh Bloom, who is a Canucks prospect, and Beck got 6 points. Oh boy. In fact, in 3 games with Saginaw, Beck has scored 3 goals and 6 assists, pushing his production to 3 points a game. No one expects him to maintain such an elevated point production rate, but it's a perfect time to discuss the importance of usage when evaluating prospects. This is what David St. Louis went out there and said about this entire thing with Owen Beck and his crazy production and scoring rates. I keep repeating this, but we underestimate how much context influence production even in junior hockey. Yes, truly elite prospects score wherever, but the vast majority of even top players need the right support. Essentially, what he's referring to is that Owen Beck is playing with a much stronger roster, and he's playing with better people in general. He's able to focus on scoring, whereas in previous lineups his responsibility skewed more toward defensive play. And this is a huge get, because Owen Beck has already been, good defensively. At the World Juniors, he was a shutdown beast. He was winning faceoffs. He was doing his thing. He could do this consistently, and it was part of his profile for years. We talked about how when Beck was initially drafted, he was seen as somewhat of a Shane Wright light because he had that two-way capability, and there was a scoring net that did exist within his game to some capacity. It's just playing on the Peterborough Petes last year, not really being able to be the number one guy for point production strictly, and then playing on the Petes this year where they kind of sucked. It's refreshing to see Beck get placed in a position now with the Saginaw Spirit where he is relied upon as the guy, or at least one of the guys, one of the main guys, and now he's got 9 points in 3 games played to kick off his Spirit career. And sure, you could say, he got 6 points in the first game, so he got 3 points in his next 2 games. What a decline. And yeah, 3 points in 2 games is fine. Still, it's all good. So there definitely is a lot to be happy with that sort of assessment here. In fact, Beck went pointless in his second game. He's only got 2 games where he has scored points, but he has 9 total points if you look at all of them combined. So, for Owen Beck, this definitely is a great trade because it allows Canadiens fans to really see what this guy is made of. That there is a good offensive touch to his game that just didn't have the opportunity to present itself on other teams. It's great for Beck to be able to get these numbers and to exhibit that type of play style more. And for Canadiens fans, all you gotta do is just tune in and watch because he's guaranteed a spotlight at the Memorial Cup. Saginaw is hosting this year, so that is a little bit more extra fuel to the fire for Owen Beck and his 23-24. Capitalizing on the World Junior Gold last year, the OHL Championship last year, the Memorial Cup experience last year, now he has an opportunity to get even more exposure at the top level of Canadian junior hockey. This is going to be great, and the Canadiens fans, I feel like we didn't really talk too much about this, so I'm retconning my mistake and discussing it in a video here today. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about Owen Beck, the way he has progressed so far, and this trade which sent him over to the Saginaw Spirit, and what it means for the Habs and their prospects. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video, and bye.